I always thought that conservative meant conservative, not spending money willy-nilly, not paying for everything under the sun. And today we got a budget that was like it was designed by Oprah. My God, the only thing saving this budget is that reciprocal tariffs, which hurt Canadians, as we've discussed previously, and the hope and the prayer that we get pipelines built. That's it. That's what's saving us and allowing us to only have $15 billion deficit at the end. We're going to get through this, but this is not conservative. In the good column, I like the housing plan. I like the conservative housing plan. And I also really like that they decided to, who they had audit this. The ex-stats can guy and really good people doing this math. But that doesn't make the math any better. So let's get into it and break it down a little bit here. So everyone's getting lower taxes by cutting the lowest tax bracket from 15% to 12.75. And I'm going to say tomorrow I will be having a compare and contrast of the Liberal and Conservatives, because at this point it's just, honest to God, these platforms are a dice roll with high points and low points for both of them. But so this is $900 per person, and this is not a middle class tax cut, as we said in the fine print portion of the last video about the Liberal tax cut, because it cuts taxes for everybody. So everybody gets $900, pays $900 less. I should not say gets. GST is eliminated on new homes under $1.3 million. Pretty sure the other guy's doing $1 million. This is just a one-upmanship. It's just one-upmanship, this whole platform. 2.3 million new homes over 5 years. So that's 460,000 homes a year instead of 500,000, which is still an absurd number that won't actually get built. Fully get rid of the carbon tax, which we'll see if that would actually lower the cost at the pumps and on heating, because I don't think it would, but we'll see. And does that mean leaving the Paris Accord? I don't know. Energy independence and expanding pipelines, LNG, mining, and Arctic ports. Well, that's nice, but there's a whole bunch of parties that you have to get buy-in from to get that done. You can say you're going to get a pipeline going from Alberta to Newfoundland. You can say it all you want, but unless you're going up and over and around Quebec, not quite sure how you're getting that done, unless you're using the notwithstanding clause. And we cannot pretend that a pipeline being built through Quebec would go smoothly or would be accepted by Quebecers or any of that. Moving on. Honestly, at this point, I don't think that the CPC wants to win, and I'll get into that at the end. Tough on crime laws with mandatory minimums and life sentences. I'm not against that personally. However, he has to use the notwithstanding clause to get that done, and it's a whole other thing. I don't think that he should. I think that it should. People like Paul Bernardo should never be able to come up for parole. Even though he hasn't gotten parole, never be able to come up for parole. Gun crimes, repeat offenders of gun crimes should not be out. But again, this is like healthcare. We have to find that middle ground between what is currently happening in Canada and becoming America. And that middle ground does exist somewhere. We just need to find it. Actually meeting NATO's 2% spending. That's actually good. That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. But this is a policy buffet. Tax relief, cheaper homes, safer streets, job creation, stronger borders, national defense. It's got everything. What was that? What is it called? Ponderosa? That buffet chain in America? Do you remember that? And maybe I'm too old. But it's too much. When you say so much, there's no focus on any one thing. And that's where this is. And I think a lot of this might be pie in the sky dreaming. using the notwithstanding clause here, is he just going to plow through Quebec and everyone else and Indigenous people to get things done? Like, we can't pretend that the reason that these projects that he is saying will exist don't exist because of government inefficiency. Some of them are because of government inefficiency, but some of them are because of jurisdiction. And a lot of this reads as the provinces have no say in what happens, which isn't great news for Canadians, in my opinion. Some things are really good, like the tax cuts. And again, the housing plan, I really like the housing plan. Even though it could go sideways really quickly, at least we aren't spending any taxpayer dollars on it. But like, the deficit is still so high. So yeah, he's cutting $10.5 billion in consultants, and he's freezing how many people can be hired, and he wants his, spend one, save one, whatever he calls it, law put into place. But 2025, 2026, it's $31 billion. And then the plan to balance the budget by 28, 29 is only because of the tariffs. And I am so against reciprocal tariffs because that only hurts Canadians. We need to have no GST on Canadian products so that Canadians can pay less and buy things. We do not need that person who has lost their job having to pay more for things because they can only find that American brand. That is not how we support Canadians. Military spending of $6.5 billion a year, that's good because our military is a joke. Like, I got nothing against that. We'll get into the housing plan in more depth tomorrow because it's late here and I'm very, very tired right now. But like, the housing plan, they're offering financial incentives to, municipalities will have to do this or they'll be cut off. But that doesn't change their zoning bylaws, the permit process, any of that stuff. So it's like, we've got two parties half-assing it. If they could get together, that would work for Canadians. If we could combine their policies, and again, in the compare and contrast tomorrow, I'll get more into it. But like, this is just, honestly, I saw somebody say that it's like the ChatGPT budget or platform, and it really is. Like, it's everything you could ever want in a platform. And then more. And then climate rollbacks, they want to get rid of the carbon taxes, and that's fine. Get rid of the clean fuel standards and emissions cap. So what, we're going to have leaded fuel back again? Like, I don't understand some of this. I don't understand some of this because, yes, carbon tax. Okay, majority of Canadians are on board with that. Why are we rolling back all climate policies? Like, I'm all for getting our stuff out of the ground as we're in this transition phase over the next 20 years. And we need oil and gas. And this could be our last chance to capitalize it as Canadians. Like, this could be the end of an era. Because in 5 years, who knows what kind of technology there will be. So, yeah, we've got to capitalize on what we've got now and get it out of the ground. But that doesn't mean we got to roll everything back. Like, I don't even know. I don't even know with this one. Like, somehow the Liberal platform made me wrinkle my brow less because it was predictable. This was not predictable. This was something for everybody. Then we've got the defunding the CPC English and keeping the French. How about instead of defunding them, we just lower their funding and make it so they can never do what they did where they fired 100 journalists and yet they gave bonuses to CEOs. How about we make it so that they cannot do that? So the first person to get a pay cut is the CEO. Why not do that? Because I do not watch CBC. I do not care for the CBC, but I do understand that some people cannot afford cable. Small towns, CBC may be the only thing on their satellite dish. They do serve a purpose, so like, it's just so much. So like, yeah, $900 a person not spent because of tax cuts. Job growth from energy expansion, if somehow every province signs on to everything, which won't freaking happen. That's not going to happen. Tougher crime laws, only enacted by using the notwithstanding clause, and the same deficits as the Liberals, but we've lowered them by taking into account that there's reciprocal tariffs the Canadians are paying into the coffers of the government. So, I don't know. Compare and contrast tomorrow is going to be interesting because there's no winner at this point. The only thing I can say is the NDP policy is clearly the loser because I don't think they have a calculator between you and I. I don't think they know how to do the math. But between the Liberals and the Conservatives at this point, you may as well toss a coin because, that is unless, and honestly, at this point, releasing the costed platform 6 days before the election and, disallowing the media in and all of these little things, the Corey Tenneke commentary in the background while he claims to support the CPC. Honestly, I'm starting to wonder if people who are advising Poilievre want Poilievre to lose so that somebody like Doug Ford can come in and win. Because there is no sense in any of this. That's all. Compare and contrast tomorrow between the two. And this is a hot mess of an election. Have a good one.